Bulk number 60 is Kerrod Walters. Kerrod made his Origin debut in Game 1 of the 1989 series and was named Man of the Match in Game 3 of that year. Kerrod's NRL journey started with the Brisbane Broncos in their inaugural year of 1998, where he was named the club's Rookie of the Year. Kerrod, along with twin Kevin and brother Steve, became the first set of three brothers to be selected in a test match for Australia and to be selected to play for Queensland. Kerrod was a member of the Brisbane Broncos Premiership winning sides of 1992 and 93 and was the Broncos Player of the Year in 1992.
Well, Kerrod Walters, thanks for your time. What does it mean to you to be a Fog?
I think it means more to know that you're able to represent this great state. I mean, to represent Queensland is not a right, it's an honour. And I think that's what Queensland Origin players get about it. It's not just representing your team, but representing the state. And it's a big responsibility and it's a great honour. So that's sort of grew from 1980. And I think that's what makes Queensland such a great Origin team, is the fact that we get it. You said, well, they still get Origin, but we just get it what it means to play for Queensland, and what those years in the 70s and 60s when we used to get flogged by a lot of. I think it was like about, I forget how long it was before we actually, since we won a game, it was phenomenal. It was about 12 years or something. It was a long time between drinks for Queensland. So when Origin came around, it changed everything.
Let's talk about the journey from a young bloke born in Rocky, then moving to Ipswich with the family, and then eventually representing state and country. What was it like growing up with all those boys in Ipswich?
Great times. I mean, Ipswich was all about, we played footy in the winter and cricket in the summer. Then obviously we played a bit of baseball as well. But pretty lucky growing up in a family of 5 boys. That it was all about, close family, all doing things together, playing sport together, go to school together, come home. I mean, we come home from school in the afternoons in primary school. We go straight out in the backyard playing footy in the winter and playing cricket in the summer. But the halfway line was a concrete path, so there's plenty of Makura comb got dished out by mum, and just good times, and just loved sort of growing up in a working class town.
How much do you reckon that helped later on, the fact that you were playing those knock-up games against your older brothers as well?
I think it mattered. I think it mattered because I think we sort of played as if we're playing in the backyard. We just played what was in front of us and what we thought was the thing to do. I mean, the modern game is very structured to a degree, but the great players still have that sort of vision to play off the cuff stuff. So we just did that from the word go, and that's how Kevy and I played our footy together. Was just play what's in front of you and just have a crack. Yeah.
Bevel Swifts. What was it like when you went down there the first time?
Yeah, well, Brett was the first to play there. We moved to Ipswich when Kevin and I were, I think, 4 years of age. So Brett ventured down. It was only just down the road from us. So, like, the school was only a kilometre away, and the footy field was 100 metres down the road. So we all ventured down there to play. Brett played under sevens first, and then Stephen, and then Andrew, and then Kevy and I. So it was great times. We played there from 5-year-olds to 18-year-olds. So we had a lot of good times there, and we won a lot of premierships too in our team, Kevin and I. I think we won under 7s, 9s, 10s, 11s, 12s, 14s, 15s, 16s, 18s. So we had a fair bit of success back then, and we just loved playing footy and just loved being involved with a great junior club.
When did it start getting serious then?
Well, see, back then it was always semi-professional. So in the Sydney Rugby League, which is now the NRL, was the pinnacle. And just below that was the Brisbane Rugby League, which is now the Queensland Cup. So when Tommy Rodriguez came to Ipswich in 1986, the Ipswich Jets were put into what was known as the Queensland Cup back then. And they used to play in I think it was the Olympic Cup back in the 70s, 60s and 70s, which was a very strong competition. But then the Jets were admitted into the Queensland Rugby League in 1986. Kevy and I signed with the Jets, and Tommy was the coach. Played mostly under 18s or under 19s that year, but played a few games first grade towards the end of the year and got a taste for it. And then in 87, Kevy got signed with the Raiders. When Wayne Bennett went down, my brother Stephen was already there, and so it was Alf and I. We stayed at the Jets in 87 and played out that year, and then obviously the Broncos came in 98 and signed with them and just enjoyed my time there. Yeah.
Is that where you met Alfie for the first time at the Jets, or did you know of Alf beforehand?
No, we knew Alf because Alf played for North. We played for Swifts, but he played with my elder brother Andrew a lot of footy together. And I actually remember a game in Andrew was under 8s and we were under 7s, and they were a bit short, so Kevin and I came on and filled in so they had a team, and Alf was playing for North, and I think I was on the wing, and I've got the ball and stepped around me. I thought, geez, I remember saying to myself, is this kid pretty good? I said, I reckon he'll play for Australia one day, that kid. Not really, but... And then Alf went on to... We were all good family friends. All the Langers and the Walters were really tight families. They played for North, we played for Swiss, but we played together in the Ipswich rep team, so knew how good Alf was from a young age. He was always small and always a great player and always a great character. And obviously played a lot of footy with him at the Jets and then obviously at the Broncos, and loved every minute of it, yeah.
So joining the Broncos from the Jets, I mean, was the Jets just, I suppose, an evolution, that it was just a pathway that we were going to take? But going to the Broncos was a step up. Was that something that you had yearned to do, to play at the highest level, or were you just enjoying your footy?
No, I always wanted to play in Sydney, because obviously what's the Sydney Rugby League as a young kid. And funny enough, in 1987 we were at the Jets. Tommy was the coach, and the CEO, Dennis Fitzgerald, was the CEO at Parramatta at the time, and he spoke to Tommy and said he was going to come up and watch Alf and I play with a view to possibly signing us to play at Parramatta in '88. So Tommy told us, and he said, make sure you play well because he's coming to watch you play. And we played that weekend, and we both played, we thought, pretty fair games. And he said he liked what he saw, he'll be in touch. And I waited by the phone for a week waiting for him to ring, and he didn't ring. So Parramatta could have signed Alf, because Alf would have went, because the Broncos weren't actually in the comp as yet. And then about 3 months later, the Broncos were formed, and also we both signed for the Broncos. So it was probably in hindsight, was a good thing for us to go there rather than Parramatta. But not for Parramatta, they would have loved to have signed Alf, I'm sure. Absolutely,
Parramatta fans will not be happy hearing that. What was it like going from playing, for the Jets and Tommy Raudonikis and being a young kid playing in the Ipswich competition, all of a sudden being at the Brisbane Broncos surrounded by, Wally Lewis, Gene Miles, you name it, the names just roll off the tongue, Greg Canescu. Yeah, well, initially to be coached by Tommy was a great honour. I knew what a great player he was and what a great character he was. But then when the Broncos performed, and that squad in their first year was a pretty formidable team, a lot of Origin players and a lot of players I worshipped and grew up watching in the Brisbane Rugby League and playing Origin and for Australia, and to be able to play in the same squad as them, it was just a dream come true. And learned a lot that year about what it takes to be a player at that level consistently. And obviously I was the understudy to Greg Canescu, who was the current Queensland and Australian hooker. So I learned a lot of turtle about preparation and about being consistent in your performances. And I just wanted to play at that level, and I got an opportunity in that year in '88 to play. Because in those days, if you played Origin, you didn't play for your club at all. So Greg Canescu missed 5 games that year with Origin and Test Cricket, but so I managed to get 5 games of NRL or New South Wales Rugby League under my belt in my first year, and I thought I want to be a permanent member of this team. So in 1989, in the pre-season, Wayne said to both of us, you're both starting on level pegging. Whoever plays the best in the trials and trains the best in the pre-season, we'll get the jersey in the first game. And I was lucky enough to get the jersey in game 1 and never look back, Turning point of your career, your life really, 1989, a massive year, wasn't it?
It was, obviously played, became the starting hooker for the Broncos and was lucky enough in 10 games later to be picked in the Queensland Origin team for game 1 at Lane Park. And it was just a dream. That was a dream come true too, so. When
did that become a reality in your mind? I mean, was it something that you thought about? I played 10 games or 15 all up. I'm nowhere near Origin level. Or were you thinking, I'm going all right, I might be a chance?
Well, I thought my brother Stephen might, because it's amazing to think 2 brothers competing for Origin and Australian positions. It was, when we look back, it was really unusual. It must have been hard for Mum and Dad, but I thought Stephen would get the job in the first game. And to my surprise, I got picked. I mean, obviously, my form at the Broncos was okay, but I think maybe it would have been the fact that Wally was at the Broncos and I don't know, I got picked and I just couldn't believe it. And it didn't really hit home until I'm sitting in the dressing room before the game at Lane Park, and Arthur Beecham, who was the coach, which made it even more special, came around and presented me with my first Origin jersey, and I thought, this can't be real. And then I put the jersey on and then ran out, because in those days you didn't warm up in the field yet. We still don't in Origins, but you warm up in the dressing room, and to run onto Lane Park and the crowd just lifts you, and I'm getting goosebumps now. I think about it. I thought, man, this is real. I'm playing Origin for Queensland, and I never thought I'd get the opportunity to do it, and I did it. Yeah.
Well, less than 10 years before, you were with your brothers and the Langers,
Yeah.
barging your way into Lang Park to watch the first Origin.
We were, because our older brothers, Brett and Kevin Langer, were playing in the under-18 curtain raiser. So we jumped in the train and caught the train down from Ipswich to go and watch it. And in those days, I don't know if you probably know the story, Kevy tells it as well, that there were no online tickets. You had to line up and get a ticket, and we were lined up. The lines were way down Hale Street, for miles. And we thought we're going to miss this game. So my dad was pretty switched on, and he bought a pair of pliers with him. We cut a hole in the fence over near the outer, and in we went, because we couldn't miss the under-18 game. And the crowd that night was supposedly 38,000. I'm telling you, another 5,000 went in through that hole, so it was probably 45,000. So yeah, it was a great night, and to experience seeing our brothers play in the curtain raise and then to see Origin, it was just unbelievable.
What was it like when you walked into camp for the first time?
Yeah, very surreal. To think, that it just didn't hit home. That you're actually, in this environment around such great players. That Origin team in '89 was a fantastic team. I was just so lucky to play in it. And to be honest, I found it easier than playing that Origin than playing first grade, because you're playing with such great players. I can only imagine that the Origin team that dominated those 8 series, to come into that team would have been such a blessing for any young player to play with such great players. And I felt the same way playing in that '89 team. And I just think you play with better players, it makes you a better player.
Well, how would you like to be the owner of one of these? A Fogs Authentic Game Ball signed by Wally Lewis at the 2023 Wally Lewis medalist Reuben Cotter. Now, all you have to do is subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. And each week, gentlemen, we'll be giving away one of these footballs to one of the viewers of the Fogs Queenslander podcast. Well done.
Well, it's good to be able to hand them on to the general public who like it, as long as we don't get blamed for breaking one of Mum's windows when they're kicking it around the backyard or tossing it around.
But this will be framed in a nice
Reuben Cotter's name. Wow.
Do you know how to subscribe and like and do all that, Gilly? No?
Oh. We can help you, mate. We can help you.
Help me out, fellas.
The 2 daughters can help you out.
So we have one of these to give away each week until stocks run out, until Wally gets sick and tired of signing them and Reuben Cotter disappears. But just subscribe to our channel, Fogs Queenslander Podcast. Write a comment below and click that like button. Everyone goes into the draw, and we've got one of these to give away each week.
Was it quick, like everyone says, like blink and you miss it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was another level up from the NRL. Really fun, because you're playing against the best players in the league. So back then there wasn't as many Kiwi players playing in the NRL, and not many British players. So the best 34 players were the best 34 players in the NRL, and it was fast, it was furious, it was pretty tough and rugged. But I really enjoyed my first Origin. Yeah, fantastic.
Your third. Your man of the match?
Yeah, well, the second game was in Sydney, and that was that Wally often talks about that game. We finished the game with 12 men. So to play in that game, I scored a try in that game too. And then in game 3, we were 2-0 up, and obviously the series was done. And third game, I got man of the match and scored a try, and yeah, it was a dream come true. Yeah, couldn't believe it. And
then test selection's not far away from that either.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all in a year.
Yep.
A few years before, you're playing out at Ipswich.
That's right. And I was an apprentice electrician in those days. So I finished my apprenticeship, I think it would have been early June, and then a week later I got picked to play State of Origin. And then I got picked to play for Australia, and I never went back to my trade. I just thought, I want to be a professional footy player, and obviously worked as well, but yeah, went down that path in years to come.
I was going to ask this question a little bit later, but you brought it up before too. Competing for a Queensland and Australian spot against your brother, was that, mate? Did that make it easier or harder for you? The fact that your direct opponent really was so close to you.
It was hard, yeah. I mean, I really felt for Steve when I first got picked, and Stephen got picked because I got suspended in '91, and actually he played 99. So I missed game 2 in '99 with an ankle injury, and Steve got picked. I was just so happy. I got injured and missed Origin, but I was just so happy that Stephen got the opportunity to play for Queensland because I knew he deserved to. And then '91, I was picked again and I got suspended, and after that I couldn't get back in because Stephen just played too good. So I was fifth on him then, but when I yeah, so.
Well, it's a sliding doors moment, really, because that game against Western Suburbs, the incident with Graham Wynn, it's remarkable how little things can change things, isn't it?
It did, but I always looked at, I was always comforted in the fact that the guy who took my spot was a great player. So, had I felt that he wasn't deserving of all the Origin he played, I would have been. But Stephen was a great player, even though it was my brother. I'm not biased. He was a great Origin player, yeah.
Well, your kangaroo coach, of course, you went on the kangaroo tour in 90, the first twins with your brother Kevin. To make that, kangaroo coach Bob Fulton rates Steve as the greatest hooker that he's ever seen. Of course, Cameron Smith now comes into the equation. But, to think that the family has produced, 3 internationals and 2 other brothers that could go all right as well, it must give you a lot of pride.
Yeah, I think that was the fact that we just grew up together and we loved the game and we watched the game and and actually Brett, and you talk about Brett and Andrew, they were very good players in their own right, and both were in the initial Broncos team in 1988, but never got the opportunities they probably should have got. I think, yeah. And see, back then it was semi-professional. You worked and the Broncos gig was semi-professional, so your focus was on your job and your second focus was on footy. So they just never got the opportunities they probably should have gotten, and didn't sort of make it to that level, but certainly had the ability to. Yeah.
When did you start to think that the Broncos team that you were playing in was not far off a premiership?
Oh, I think in the early years we learned how hard it is the week in week grind of NRL or New South Wales Rugby League was back then. Even though we had a really good footy team, we Origin really took its toll on us back then too, because back then, if you were picked in Origin, there was a period in 1989 where we missed 6 games, like all of our Origin and Test players. So it was hard. And back then it was a top 5, not a top 8. I think we missed the 5 by about 2 points. So it was difficult having all those good players because you're really heavily penalised during Origin because you just didn't play. I mean, so I think 91 was the year we thought we really should have done better in 91 than we did, and of course in 92. Those young kids that were coming through, they were hitting their peak, hitting their straps, and 92 was our year, yeah.
Well, not only that, but you've got a couple of handy players from Canberra that knew how to win premierships, and a coach from Canberra as well.
Yep.
Kevy returning home, and Glenn Lazarus, a great mate of yours, joining the club. Yep. What impact did that have?
Well, Lazo was the best front rower in the game at the time, and
arguably still of all time.
And I think he still is now. I mean, I can imagine Lazo in the modern era. How good he would be. So he was a major factor in that as well. But I think we sort of got better as players ourselves, and our younger players like Julian O'Neill, Steve Renouf, Willie Kahn, they all improved as well, and it was just our year, and I think we were meant to win that year. Yeah. And
having Kevy back alongside playing, what was that like to have him back and Alfie there? It must have, at times, you're back in the park at Bavel.
It was, yeah. It was like our Jets days in '86, just playing free-flowing footy, just play whatever we saw, and it was great to have Kevy back because Kevy and I grew up together. We were tight as, and when he went to play at Canberra, it was hard at first for both of us, but we sort of adapted our games to differently now, and when he came back, we were better players. So and then obviously helped us win that premiership at '92, being improved players and a better understanding of the game. Yeah.
And looking back on the career, young bloke, 5 years of age, going down with your twin to watch your older brothers play, and then eventually playing yourself.
Yep.
Could you have possibly imagined that you'd play 6 Origins, 8 Test matches, couple of premierships, kangaroo tours, you name it, you've achieved everything there has been to achieve in the game. Do you sit here now still sort of pinching yourself at times?
Yeah, it's sort of hard to. Yeah, you just never. I just love the game, and I just love playing. And I had aspirations to go to the highest level, but you just never thought. You just didn't know what was around the corner. And I just felt if I trained hard and worked hard, the results would come. And I was lucky enough to play in some really good footy teams, which helped as well. So and be around some really good players and have a great coach in Wayne Bennett. He's still in the game now. It's phenomenal to think he's still coaching and still having an impact on his players. So, and that was certainly Wayne really taught you how to prepare for games and how to your mental preparation was very important. like Jack Gibson was the first person to sort of go down that path about the mental side of the game and how to prepare and how to be the best you can. And Wayne obviously tapped into that as well.
Who's had the biggest influence on your career?
My parents, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's because they took us, they got us to the games, they allowed us to play and support us 100%, and never ever sort of were over influences in what we wanted to do. They just support us whatever we wanted to do, and they were fantastic parents, and I love them to death. Yeah, I love the bitch. Yeah.
Here's a really unfair question. If you could play one game again, just one game out of your career, the opportunity to relive it, do it again, what would it be?
Well, I'd have to say that's the first State of Origin. Yeah, I mean, State of Origin is the pinnacle for a Queenslander, and to play my first game at Lane Park or Suncorp, that ticks all the boxes. And to be sitting in the dressing room beside Wally Lewis, Mal Meninga, Alan Langer, Gene Miles, that's how good does it get?
Who's the best player you played with, or your favourite player to play with?
The best player I've played, well, I think the best player I've ever seen and played with is Wally Lewis. But he got 8 man of the matches in the State of Origin. But when we got our 6, Alan Lang was a phenomenal player, and I think Alf's greatness is the fact that he would stand out in a great team. That's it. He won 4 or 5 Player of the Year awards, and that's how good he was. He could stand out in a team of champions. So he was a phenomenal player.
Kerrod, just summing up, how do you look back as a young man from Ipswich on your career now?
Oh, look, I look back with great memories, and to think that I could have achieved what I've achieved, and to think how much the fun I had along the way, and the fact I could do. I had my brothers there as well along the way, and just lucky enough to play for the Jets. Came in the competition, was able to play for them, and then the Broncos came in, was able to play for them. It just all sort of unfolded, and I just loved every part of it, and would have played for nothing if it meant to be. I just couldn't believe I was getting paid to play a game I loved. So that was the most joyous part, is the fact that I got to do something that I love and get paid for it, which is unbelievable.
Well, Kerrod, congratulations on a wonderful career, and thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Fogs Queenslander podcast. If there's a Fog you want to hear from, leave a comment to let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos.